Now, I was somewhat looking forward to this movie when it was first announced. However, I don't really know much about the brand besides that it's from a game. So I am a newbie. But give me a few minutes, hold on, let's go. So the new movie Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a fantasy action comedy based on the tabletop role-playing game from 1974. Now I'm sure most of you have heard of Dungeons and Dragons before, but me, what I didn't know, and maybe you too, is that this apparently is the fourth movie adaptation from the game. It looks like they also had an animated TV series back in the 80s, and from what I've heard about the movies is that they weren't so good. So this movie may be a sign of good things to come. The story follows our beloved Chris Pine, who plays the protagonist, and his role in the story is something of a leader, or I should say master of plans, since all he does is come up with plans and backup plans just in case the first plan fails. So does that mean he plans to fail all the time? Well, maybe not this time, since the main plot of the story is for him to save his daughter from an untrustworthy foe who's manipulating her. I forgot to mention that he's also a thief, but an honorable thief, so he means well, hence the title. He attracts others to his cause with different magical abilities as they go on epic quests and adventures where they stumble upon many dragons and dungeons. Yeah, I don't know if that sounds as good as Dungeons and Dragons, and when I think about it, I wonder if the creators at the time, before releasing it, before publishing, that they had a disagreement of the name for this game. Like, should we call it Dungeons and Dragons or Dragons and Dungeons? Either way, I believe the game also goes by D&D, so it's a win-win. Now I'll tell you what else is a win-win, and that's the dynamic casting duo of Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. These characters are complete opposites, yet they care so much about each other, such as if they were siblings. When it comes to Chris Pine's performance in this film, I thought overall that he did a good job, and we all know of Chris Pine for having excellent comedic timing. However, in this movie, in this story, I do think that the writing for him specifically was a little bit over the top and somewhat corny at times. Now for Michelle Rodriguez, I do think that she could have done a little better in some of her acting dialogues. However, she totally kicked ass when it came down to those fighting choreographies. I mean, in every scene, she definitely looked badass, and her body was in crazy shape for this role. And the rest of the cast also did a good job with the script they were giving, including Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis, and Hugh Grant. Justice Smith plays a character who knows, or I should say still learning how to control his magical powers. He's not the most confident, but learns as he goes, which could either help or hurt the group. Sophia Lillis plays a character who could transform into creatures and animals, such as if she needs to fight, she could be a strong animal, or if she needs to be small, she could sneak around and be unnoticed. Now, Hugh Grant is actually the villain in the story, and I personally wasn't a huge fan of his portrayal of this character. Since this is an action comedy, they give him so much comedic material to work with, and I just feel he overdid the performance since he was supposed to be the villain. He does have someone in the movie who is more menacing to do his dirty work, but I just felt there was still some disconnect with his character. The CGI action scenes also felt all over the place. However, I did appreciate some scenes, especially this one scene that included this big ass dragon. I mean, you've never seen a dragon this fat before, and it was just so funny how they had this huge dragon chasing after the characters. That probably has to be one of my most favorite scenes from the movie. And yeah, the only other negative I would say for me personally is that there is a lot of comedy in this movie, so it could definitely be a hit or miss for the audience. For me personally, I didn't really laugh out loud throughout the movie until a few scenes in regards to these graveyards. When you watch the scenes with the graveyards, I did find that was very creative writing, and I found that pretty funny. Now, the story, I would say, definitely had a good premise about betrayal, trust, and loyalty. However, since I'm not familiar with the game, I am curious to know if you guys played the game, if that this is a lot of the stuff shown in the movie is true to the source material. I'm pretty sure the previous movie adaptations were more action drama just based on looking at the movie posters. And if that's true, then I could see why they would want to take this brand in a new creative direction, which I was okay with. I just remember when this new movie was first announced, I was excited since Dungeons and Dragons sounds awesome. I thought it would have had a more serious tone similar to the new Dune movie or the Lord of the Rings franchise. But now I guess if I were to compare this movie to other movies so you have an idea of the feel and tone, is that the cast of characters is very similar to Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy and DC Suicide Squad. I love fantasy movies, so I wasn't bothered by the magic and creatures. However, if you're not into that stuff, this movie is probably not for you. But if you love the cast of actors such as myself, then you may find this enjoyable regardless, because they all did a pretty decent job with the comedy. Speaking of characters, here we go again. Here's my top 8 favorite characters from least to most. So with with all that being said, this movie is definitely one I'd have to watch again to see if it's more enjoyable than my first time, because my initial experience, I felt the runtime was a little too long with a very straightforward plot storyline. I did watch this in IMAX, so the visuals were also pretty decent, but what holds this movie together is the cast and lighthearted comedy that they bring to the table. Each character had a different skill set that complemented the group and their mission, so overall I found it very interesting as my introduction to the Dungeons and Dragons universe.
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
So you make plans that fail?
No.
He also plays the lute.
Stick to the plan.
I also forgot to mention I was able to pick up one of these mini movie posters, and I mean literally picked up. As I was about to check into the theater, as they're about to scan my phone for my ticket, I just saw this on the table beforehand. So I was like, you know what, there's a pile of these. I'm gonna just pick this up and take it. Why not? But you know what I realized? I may be a thief, just like the fools in this movie. But I did this for you guys, right? I'm thinking of the channel, something I could show off in the video. So I think this is cool. If I'm a thief, I'm an honorable thief. I had a good cause behind it, just like these fools. So check it out. I think this is pretty cool. Something simple. I had no idea what I was looking at beforehand. I was like, who are these characters? I get the dragon. I think this is that big ass dragon I was telling you guys about. So now that I watched the movie, I understand these characters. I appreciate them a lot more. And I look forward to seeing if they have other spin-offs. But let me know what you guys think about this movie down in the comments. Do you think it was a great adaptation, such as the action comedy that they portrayed in the film? Or did you think it was just okay, such as myself? But if you haven't watched yet, I hope this review has helped you. And you should still definitely check it out and let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider clicking that like button and subscribing if you're new to the channel. This way you can stay updated with new movie reviews uploaded weekly. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.